Drop a stone into a still pond, and you get an immediate physical reaction. Surface waves radiate from the point of impact in expanding concentric circles, transforming a placid environment into a series of moving parts. This kinetic perturbation has a precise modern equivalent. It's the moment you sit at a desk, looking at an online store, about to buy a garment that costs less than a cup of coffee. We usually view this as a first-order transactional event, a simple exchange of capital for utility that begins and ends at the screen. But let's pause at the exact millisecond before your finger clicks the button. Existential psychologist Viktor Frankl noted that between a stimulus and our response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose. This is the zone of metacognition. While lower organisms are often tethered to immediate cues, human consciousness can insert an analytical buffer. We can intercept an automatic impulse and evaluate it before it turns into a physical action. If we zoom out from this frozen click, we see that the button is actually a node in a vast web. It is tethered to global infrastructure networks, transcontinental freight corridors, and subsea data streams. Recognizing this hidden systemic network is the first step toward understanding our influence. To see the actual cost of that pending purchase, we have to look past the screen and follow the ripples through the real world. Ludwig von Bertalanffy's general systems theory suggests that complex environments can't be understood by looking at isolated variables. We have to map the principles of organization that govern the system as a whole. The first-order outcome of your click is straightforward. You get the shirt, you save money, and you get the immediate gratification of the purchase. But that demand signal triggers second-order effects across the globe. It accelerates low-wage factory shifts and puts pressure on manufacturing centers to maintain ultra-low costs. That signal then ripples into the shipping lanes. The demand for rapid delivery requires intensive transoceanic logistics, moving colorful containers across thousands of miles of ocean. We then reach the third-order systemic consequences. To produce textiles at this scale and price, resource-intensive material processing often results in industrial wastewater being discharged directly into the environment. The final stage of this cascade is the accumulation of waste. Millions of tons of discarded textiles end up in landfills every year, a direct consequence of a business model built on rapid, inexpensive manufacturing. Small interventions often lead to these unpredictable structural imbalances. Take philosopher Dennis Diderot. When he got a new scarlet dressing gown, it made his other possessions look out of place. He started replacing everything, his chairs, his art, his desk and tables, until he was in severe financial distress. Seeing how one choice can spiral into a global chain reaction is overwhelming. It's natural to want to step back and simply do nothing to avoid being part of the problem. This brings us to omission bias. It's a cognitive tendency to judge a harmful action as worse than a passive non-intervention that leads to the same harm. We mistakenly believe that inaction is a safe baseline. But in open systems that rely on continuous flows of energy and capital, absolute neutrality isn't an option. If our retirement funds or our daily routines provide the baseline demand for an industry, then choosing not to change is a choice to keep things exactly as they are. From a systems standpoint, if our silence and our actions result in the same structural outcome, they carry the same weight. Passivity isn't an escape from the network. It is the input that keeps the current machinery running. To navigate these cascades, we need rigorous ethical frameworks. Utilitarianism, championed by John Stuart Mill, focuses on calculating the utility of an action across public health and environmental sustainability. Alternatively, Kantian deontology asks us to look at universal rational duties. It demands that we evaluate our choices not just by the outcome, but by whether they respect human agency across the entire network. We apply these ideas through a second-order thinking protocol to map choices across time horizons and spatial domains. By repeatedly asking, "and then what?" we look past the immediate transaction to see how suppliers adjust, how grids absorb load, and what happens systemically. Back in the present, at the millisecond before the click, you use that space Viktor Frankl described. You pull your finger back. You decide not to act on the impulse. By integrating this and then what protocol, we change how we interact with the network. It allows us to transform unexamined transactions into deliberate choices that are systemically aligned with our actual values.